Welcome to part 2 of this emotional Korean drama story about a young girl cursed by fate. She carries a deadly curse. Every man who comes close to her meets a tragic end. Branded as a witch by those around her, she lives a life of fear and loneliness, but behind the curse lies a story of sorrow, love, and mystery waiting to unfold. If you haven't seen the first part of this heartbreaking story, make sure to watch it first. The link is right above. Don't miss it, so you can feel the full journey from the very beginning. Now, let's continue. Back at the hospital, he thanked her, thinking she had helped Mi Jong out of goodwill. But Mistress Oh then revealed a painful secret. In the past, she had joined the villagers in driving Mi Jong away from the neighborhood. While cleaning, Mistress Oh had found a photo of Mi Jong and feared that her son might fall for her and end up hurt. Influenced by gossip, she made the wrong choice. When faced with harsh words from the villagers, Mi Jong first apologized and then promised to leave. Feeling a bit of relief, Mistress Oh stopped the villagers from cursing her further. Yong left, Mistress Oh noticed her frail figure and felt a wave of guilt. One night, when Mi Jong missed the last bus, Mistress Oh offered to drive her to the station. Knowing Mi Jong had nowhere to go, she later bought her house to help her financially. Mistress Oh had always wanted to apologize to Mi Jong in person, but never got the chance. Recalling her son's insistence that Mi Jong was not a witch, she asked him to deliver her apology if he ever met her again. Dong Jin, a lover of photography, realized with sadness that he had never taken a proper photo of his mother. Their last photo together was taken during his high school graduation. She wore the mink coat he never liked. Honoring his mother's final wish, Dong Jin gave her a vibrant, beautifully decorated funeral. While going through her things, he stumbled upon his old, incomplete reports. Years back, they had been tossed out at Mi Jong's place. Secretly, the housemaid had retrieved them. Even though she couldn't understand the complicated formulas or the statistical errors in those papers, she kept reading them repeatedly until the day she passed away. She firmly believed Mi Jong was innocent. Dong Jin was determined to clear Mi Jong's name and prove she wasn't a witch, just like his mother had wanted. The following day, Dong Jin studied a crime map from the San Francisco police, which showed crime details based on time, place, and severity. Using the data, the police had successfully reassigned patrols and reduced crime rates. Inspired, he decided to create a similar map to track incidents linked to the so-called witch. If he could spot the patterns and variables, he might be able to predict and stop future events. To fully commit to solving Mi Jong's mystery, Dong Jin quit his lucrative job and abandoned the casino project, even though his boss tried to stop him. Meanwhile, Mi Jong stayed inside all day, living alone in her tiny rented room, keeping only 2 straw dolls for company. Thankfully, her friend Yil found her some translation work. Mi Jong did not let her down and always turned in her assignments punctually. Her life was quiet but peaceful. On the other side, Dong Jin decided to rent a room in the building across from Mi Jong's. He didn't care about the room's design. He just wanted the one directly facing hers. However, that room was already occupied. Dong Jin bribed the agent to find the current tenant and tried to persuade him to switch rooms. The man refused firmly, but Dong Jin didn't give up. He rented the room below and regularly visited the tenant's convenience store, offering help and small gifts. Eventually, he even offered to pay for 3 months' rent and cover moving expenses. Finally, the man agreed to switch rooms. Next, Dong Jin sneaked into the opposite apartment building to confirm Mi Jong's unit through the mailboxes. Yil caught him acting suspiciously and asked who he was looking for. He quickly lied, saying he was heading to the 3rd floor, only to realize it was a bikini waxing salon. Under Yil's curious gaze, he awkwardly had to walk in. Later, Yil visited Mi Jong, and they shared a cheerful dinner. Mi Jong enthusiastically spoke about a small town in Austria she had read about while translating. She dreamed of one day walking freely in such a place, living like everyone else. Meanwhile, Dong Jin got a call from a detective who had tracked down the man who smashed his car. The man Lee ran a small paper cup factory and had once been approved for a loan. However, A change in the bank's policies had blocked his funding, forcing him into bankruptcy. He later learned that Dongjin's company had developed the loan system and blamed him, making Dongjin his target for revenge. Before leaving the station, Dongjin asked which department handled streetlight maintenance. He had noticed a flickering lamp at the entrance of the alley the night he walked Mi-jong home. When Dongjin returned home, Lee ambushed him. Dongjin didn't fight back, and he even stopped the convenience store owner from calling the police. Lee angrily accused Dongjin of ruining his factory and causing his employees to lose their jobs. After Lee calmed down, Dongjin took him out for a meal. He explained that he had only worked on the data calculations for the loan system and never intended to harm anyone. Though Lee knew it wasn't entirely Dongjin's fault, the pain of losing his family pushed him to the edge. He confessed he had dark thoughts but kept going, driven by hatred toward Dongjin. Hoping to help Lee, Dongjin asked the chairman to offer him a job. In a world where most people only care about themselves, Dongjin stood out, even trying to save others, which left a strong impression on the chairman. Meanwhile, Officer Kim received a report about a woman whose home had been trashed, but there were no signs of forced entry, suggesting she knew the intruder. Kim advised her to get a restraining order and wear a smart watch that would alert officers if she pressed it during an emergency. After ensuring she reached her parents' house safely, Kim returned to the station and bumped into Dongjin. They decided to grab a meal together. But just then, Kim received an urgent phone call. He hurried over to the victim's location, but sadly, he arrived too late. The woman had lost a significant amount of blood and had already been rushed to the hospital. Kim couldn't shake off the guilt for not being able to protect her in time. Late at night, Mi-jong stepped outside and was pleasantly surprised to see the streetlights working as usual. She made her way to the alley to feed the stray cats and quietly muttered to herself, saying she truly felt like a witch. Dongjin, hiding nearby, overheard her words and felt even more determined to lift her curse. The next morning, Dongjin returned to his village. He tracked down an old friend and asked her to gather some people, as he had something important to discuss. Afterward, he visited the village chief to retrieve the keys to his old house. The chief suggested that he consider selling it if he didn't plan to come back often. Lately, the area where Mi-jong lived was being developed into a resort, which had caused property prices to rise. Suddenly, Dongjin thought of something and asked if there had been any unusual incidents lately. The chief replied that since Mi-jong left, no strange events had occurred. The last was when the laundromat owner's son was injured by a wild boar. That evening, Dongjin sought out the injured man to learn more. The man explained that feeling sorry for Mi-jong after she lost her father, he had brought her some bread. However, he was too shy to express his feelings. He stayed around for about 12 minutes, but the moment he stepped outside, he was attacked by a wild boar and badly hurt. Later that night, Dongjin's friends gathered as he had asked. He handed each of them a book that Mi-jong had translated. Although surprised, they still referred to Mi-jong as a witch. Dongjin shared that he had recently seen Mi-jong and that she was deeply suffering under the weight of the curse. Even staying alive seemed like a struggle for her. He urged his friends to help collect data about all the incidents linked to Mi-jong, as he was determined to save her from this miserable fate. Dawn, now a high school teacher, helped Dongjin access the school records room with ease. He took photos of every file related to the victims, sorted the information, and worked overnight to build a comprehensive chart. The data showed that during Mi-jong's time at the school, accidents and fatalities had spiked noticeably and most incidents happened around her. To uncover more, Dongjin decided to visit the injured students personally. The first was a boy who had cut Mi-jong's rope and fallen into a manhole. He had feelings for her but never confessed. The second was a boy who had offered her candy and later got into a car accident. He spent around 10 minutes with her and also liked her. Dongjin continued his visits and discovered that every accident happened within a 10-meter range of Mi-jong. After thoroughly analyzing the data, he identified a pattern and formed a hypothesis. Being in the same area as her is risky. Talking to her poses danger, Knowing her personally is dangerous. Confessing your love for her is dangerous. Breaking all these rules could lead to death. However, these risks only applied if the person had feelings for Mi-jong. That night, Dawn came to see Dong-jin. Shocked by his findings, she confessed that she had started the witch rumor out of jealousy when she discovered her crush liked Mi-jong. She asked Dong-jin to pass along her apology, but he encouraged her to tell Mi-jong herself. Dawn then mentioned that Mi-jong had once been accepted to Korea University, directly entering as a junior under a senior student. She suggested that Dong-jin look into her college years. The following morning, Dong-jin rushed to Seoul to meet the senior. Unfortunately, he didn't learn much, only that Mi-jong had dropped out shortly after enrolling. Dong-jin then tracked down a movie ticket inspector who had once confessed to Mi-jong. The man often saw her watching late-night films and was drawn to her beauty. He confessed his feelings but ended up getting hurt. Dong-jin was surprised the man had survived. But then he noticed the name tag on the man's uniform and realized Mi-jong had never actually known his real name. Back home, Dong-jin revised his third hypothesis. If she knows your name, you're at risk. He measured the distance to Mi-jong's house, roughly 10 meters. At that moment, the tape measure jammed, refusing to retract while Mi-jong opened her window. Dong-jin quickly pulled the tape back by hand. Mi-jong stepped out onto her balcony, enjoying the falling snow. As she slowly walked toward the edge, there was a sudden noise. Dong-jin got a cut from the tape measure, which confirmed his suspicion. Being within a 10-meter radius of her was indeed dangerous. To gather more information, Dong-jin reached out to Mi-jong's only friend, Yil. The moment she saw Dong-jin, she recognized him as the suspicious man from the apartment and assumed he was following Mi-jong around. Dong-jin quickly showed her his investigation notes, explaining that he just wanted to help Mi-jong live a normal life. After going through his detailed report, Yil slowly started to trust him and began sharing Mi-jong's past. She recalled first meeting Mi-jong during student council recruitment. Mi-jong always dressed in black and kept to herself in a corner, yet somehow she still caught the eyes of many boys. One day, a senior bumped into her in the hallway. The moment he saw her, he panicked and instinctively stepped back. His girlfriend saw this and, assuming they had a history, stormed off in a rage. Later, a boy kept pestering Mi-jong to watch a movie with him. Even though she refused repeatedly, he wouldn't give up. He tried to confess his feelings, but ended up falling down the stairs, once again fueling the rumors of a witch's curse. The senior's girlfriend, still fuming with jealousy, pressured the senior to make a public declaration. He ended up announcing that anyone who liked or dated Mi-jong would either get hurt or end up dead. Rumors about Mi-jong being a witch spread rapidly across the campus. During the final exams, Mi-jong finished early and tried to leave, but the professor stopped her under the pretense of giving guidance. Shockingly, he wrote "I love you" on her paper. Horrified, Mi-jong ran out of the room, fearing something terrible would happen to him. She even called an ambulance in advance, but they thought it was just a prank. Just then, Yil approached and invited her to have a meal, but Mi-jong was desperate to leave. Yil then noticed the professor staring at Mi-jong from a window. Moments later, he fell to his death. This horrifying event seemed to confirm the rumors that Mi-jong was cursed. She couldn't handle the situation anymore and decided to drop out of school. Yil spent months searching for her and finally tracked Mi-jong down in a quiet, nearly abandoned village that was on the brink of demolition. The place felt eerie, but strangely comforting. Feeling sympathy, Yil asked Mi-jong why she had left everything behind. Mi-jong cut her off, saying she didn't want anyone's pity. Yil clarified that it wasn't pity, she simply cared about her, not wanting to push her too much. Yil gave Mi-jong her phone number and left. Months later, Mi-jong called Yil to tell her that her house had been broken into. Yil scolded her for staying in such a dangerous place, but Mi-jong explained it was the only way she could live alone. Feeling protective, Yil decided to care for her like a sister. The next day, they found a house with a small yard. As Yil negotiated the rent, Mi-jong smiled genuinely for the first time in a long while. They grew closer and became best friends. Dongjin and Yil then examined the distance between Mi Jong and the professor during the fatal incident. They found it was about 10 meters. They had spoken to each other, exchanged confessions, and knew one another's identity, which matched Dongjin's theories. Yil also introduced two other boys who had suffered accidents shortly after being near Mi Jong. Both incidents occurred within the same distance, and about 10 minutes after being in her presence. Dongjin concluded that his hypothesis was correct. To avoid relying solely on others' accounts, he decided to test the theory himself. From his observations, Mi Jong usually did translation work in the afternoons, took coffee or instant noodle, breaks on her balcony, worked until about 2 a.m., and then went out to feed stray cats when the streets were quiet. About once a month, she randomly hopped on a bus to the last stop and back as her way of traveling. Every Tuesday, a supermarket delivery man would bring her groceries. Dongjin got a part-time job at that supermarket and bought gear from a nearby motorcycle shop. On Tuesday, Dongjin excitedly went to Mi Jong's place. He rang the bell and started a timer the moment she opened the door. His heart pounded. To buy time, he carried the boxes to her doorstep, checked the items one by one, and asked her to sign the receipt. Mi Jong, not used to speaking with strangers, still thanked him as he left. Outside, he checked the timer. Less than 10 minutes and nothing happened. Over the following days, he secretly visited her house but always made sure to leave before the 10-minute mark. Nothing went wrong, but one day he decided to stay longer. As he walked downstairs, he missed a step and twisted his ankle. Back at home, he revised his hypothesis. Staying within a 10-meter radius of Mi Jong for more than 10 minutes is risky. Dongjin had become her usual delivery guy every Tuesday. Slowly, Mi Jong began to chat with him during checkout. She intended to pay by card, but Dongjin hadn't brought the card machine. She went inside to grab some cash, and as the 10-minute limit was nearly up, Dongjin started feeling anxious. Thankfully, Mi Jong managed to pay just in time. He hurried downstairs but narrowly avoided a motorcycle accident. Right after, the apartment sign came loose and crashed down, injuring his wrist. He started to believe that there might be a limit to how long they could talk. On another Tuesday, Mi Jong picked up a drink but noticed someone else doing the delivery. Disappointed, she carried the box herself and checked the items alone. Wanting to stay safe, Dongjin upgraded his protection. He got stronger gear and a helmet. Fully suited, he went back to Mi Jong's place. When she saw him again, her face lit up, and she gladly checked the delivery with him. Dongjin carefully counted their words during the chat. Before leaving, he realized they had spoken 9 times. Mi Jong saw his injured wrist and asked if he got hurt while coming to her place. He fibbed, saying it happened while exercising. Seeing her relieved expression, he forgot to keep count of their conversation exchanges. Another accident struck. His motorbike skidded, and he fell. This time he realized for sure, crossing more than 10 exchanges with her was risky. Yil visited him at the hospital, urging him to stop. If Mi Jong learned his name, things could turn dangerous. But only Dongjin knew how much he liked her, enough to risk it all. A month later, he had recovered from his injuries. That day was Mi Jong's bus trip. Dongjin followed her from a distance, boarded the same bus, and sat at the back about 11 meters away from her. He secretly enjoyed the ride, hoping for traffic so the journey would last longer. On the return trip, Mi Jong offered her seat to an elderly lady, closing the gap between them to just 5 meters. To make matters worse, the bus got stuck on a bridge in heavy traffic. Dongjin anxiously kept an eye on the timer. Suddenly, strange lightning streaked across the sky. A nearby truck was loaded with sharp steel rods. Realizing the threat, Dongjin leapt out of the bus window. At that moment, Mi Jong opened her window too and called out his name. Now, he was within a 10-meter range of her for over 10 minutes, and she knew his name. Dongjin recalled that lightning never struck the Han River in winter. He glanced at Mi Jong, smiled softly, and then jumped. But the story doesn't end here. To complete this journey, make sure to watch part 3. I swear you'll be amazed by the ending. Don't forget to subscribe to Duty Movie and share your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching.